Good afternoon. It's David Saline and Chris Coley with Matt Winslow from Drive. And today we have special guest Keith from Keith's Automotive and his consultant Andy. So welcome Keith and Andy.
Hey guys, thank you for having me. I don't see Keith on
I
here.
think Keith just lost his connection.
He's
Okay,
like that, or yeah,
There, he's coming back.
There we go.
okay, well, we'll introduce Keith here in just a second when he gets back on, but I have some exciting news from Drive for all of our guests that are listening today and everything. And I'm going to start off with the first one. Is the first exciting announcement that we have is the Drive Expo. We are going live. We're going to be in person for the Drive Expo in Orlando, Florida, August 25th through the 28th. So let's mark our calendars. There's going to be a lot more details on how to book rooms and register, and all that will be coming up here soon in the next week. So we're excited. We want to get back in person and have everybody meet and join in the networking and the training and all the special events of the expo. So I know Keith, we were just talking before the show. Keith from Keith's Automotive is here now. His connection failed for a second. But Keith actually joined Drive at the beginning of the pandemic. So he's never been to a expo or a live event. So I'm sure Keith is really excited about this opportunity.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I want to meet some of the people I've seen on Zoom meetings and meet Andy and Chris and Dave and Matt. It's going to be a lot of fun, I think.
Okay, well, thanks for that, Keith. And before we get into our main part of the show, I have one more important announcement too. Drive is going back to some in-person workshops. And we will be in Dallas, Texas, the week of March 21st through the 26th. We'll be offering 4 different classes: controlling the front, building your dream team, planning for success, and succession and exit strategies. These 4 classes will be in live in a conference room in Dallas, Texas. And we tell everybody right now, if you're interested, there'll be emails going out on it. There'll be links in the Facebook Live. There'll be posts on the social media. Click on the link, say I'm interested, I want to attend. There's a great opportunity for live workshop instructions, learning the materials, getting all the great stuff that you'll get from Drive, but also the networking function with being able to network with other shop owners from across the country. So we're looking forward to actually getting back to live in-person events. And the next one coming up is, like I said, March 21st through 26th in Dallas, Texas. So talk to your consultant, to your account reps, or your Drive representative, and we can help you get set up if you want to attend those. So now moving on, Keith. So we tell us a little bit about your shop, because this is a little different because you've only seen the virtual side of Drive. So let's talk about signing up for Drive at the beginning of the pandemic, what you were facing, and tell us how things have been going.
Even though I've never been to a live class, Drive's helped me a tremendous amount. Andy's been great. And I've increased my business from the last 20 years of being 500,000. I just kind of stalemated there. Last year we did just under 750,000. So you guys have helped me a lot. Andy had to fight me to get me to hire a service writer, but I did hire him, and he was right. And I give too much stuff away, and the service writer, he can't do that. So it kind of puts brakes on my being big hearted and giving stuff away to people. So,
not to interrupt you, but that's an important point. I even went through this myself, and it's a hard lesson to learn as a shop owner, isn't it?
yes.
You get working with a consultant, and your consultant says, hire a service writer. Well, I'm doing pretty good at service writing. I can sell my customers. I like to be that person. And then after your consultant beats up on you enough, and you decide to hire a service advisor, and you watch the income go up, and you find out how much you were giving away because you didn't want to be in conflict with your clients. You have guys, I always use this one, sweet little old lady come in, they've known me, and I lived in a small town. So that sweet little old lady that's probably 70, 80 years old walks in, needs some work done on her car, and she could tell you, I remember your dad when he was knee high, and I remember when you were born, and things have been pretty tight, and it's pretty rough. And you, as a natural human, you just sit here and say, how can I help you? And you start discounting stuff, but you don't realize how that hurts your shop in the long run too.
Yes, I found that out after I did hire a service rider. But I got to take it back. I had a service rider once before, and the reason I didn't hire another one was because he pilfered some money from the cash drawer, and so I just could not give somebody the operations of the money part of it. But I've got a good guy, and he's honest and very good salesman.
Okay, so Keith, that led just what you just led me, not to take you down that painful memory road over there, but that's another big point, and I know Chris will bring this up too. Is kind of like you reach down to pet a dog and it bites you once, so you don't ever reach down to pet that dog again. And I know shop owners struggle with this, and it may not be just with service writers. It could be many different positions with the company. You hired it, you tried it out, it didn't work out, something bad happened. So then you just say, I'll just do it myself and I won't hire anybody else to do that job. Is that kind of the viewpoint you had in that?
Yeah, it was, and it stuck with me for 10 years. It took 10 years to get another service writer in here. So plus I got a better service writer. The guy I have now is a much better salesman than the first one was. Plus I learned through you guys how to pay somebody, because looking back on what I paid the first guy, I overpaid him for what he was doing compared to what the guy's earning good money now here, but he's not getting it no matter what he does like the other guy did.
Great.
So
Now, Keith, you mentioned right before we came on the air that you signed up right before the whole country went into lockdown. So I imagine that was pretty scary. Tell me how you navigated that. And
Well, fortunately here, business did not slow down at all. Actually got busier during the pandemic. And we were considered essential, so I didn't have to take and close up at all. And knock on wood, none of my employees got sick during that whole period of time.
that's great.
So that worked out real well. But yeah, it was scary taking on that extra amount of money. And then 2 weeks later, am I going to be able to make that money? You get real panic there.
Right.
And I was actually looking really forward to coming down there and meeting everybody, but I guess I'll meet everybody in August.
Yeah, definitely will.
so
Go ahead, David.
I had a question for Andy. Keith's coming in here now, and I think the biggest question that I was looking for is you've helped him a lot. It seems like he's grown by $250,000 after being flat for a period of time in there. When you started going through the systems with Keith and everything, how fast was he to react to some of this? Because I know sometimes people drag their feet, and not to put you on the spot, Keith, but I wanted to get from Andy, how fast you react, because it seems like you had to react pretty fast to make that type of change that quick.
Yeah, I think one thing that was really good for Keith is he's always been receptive to all the information that we've shared with him. That's number one thing. Now, in terms of implementing and actually doing some of that, it did take a bit, right, Keith? I think it was more of, hey, kind of him gaining our trust, making sure that, hey, what we're implementing is working. And once he started seeing that, it went a lot faster. I mean, even to this day, we had a good conversation yesterday on some things that we need to do. I feel like he always is receptive, and that he's getting better as an owner in terms of implementing things when they should, because he knows that if we're talking about something and it needs to be implemented, I've always told him is the longer you wait, the more money you lose. And then one thing, not to kind of switch topics really quick, but one thing that I really want to commend Keith on is, like he said, he did hire a service advisor. It took him a while, but he was open to the idea. He hired a service advisor. How long was Jared with you the first stint, Keith?
Like 3 months.
Okay. And then he found another job, right? So he hired a service advisor. Keep in mind, it took him a lot. And like I said, he had those trust issues and whatnot. He ended up hiring a service advisor. The service advisor left. It could have been very easy for Keith to say, you know what, forget it. It didn't work out again. Let me man the front. No, he hired another service advisor right away, right, Keith? How long did that take?
Within a week.
And that showed me that, hey, he was committed to, hey, if I'm going to do this thing, I'm going to do this thing right. He could have easily gone back to, okay, it's my baby, let me handle it. It didn't work out again. No, he hired somebody else. The beauty of it is that that other service advisor was not so great, right, Keith?
No, he was worse than me.
Great.
Yeah, so Keith's sales were here. He got that service advisor, and then the new one dropped them over here, right, Keith?
Right.
Again, he didn't quit. He didn't, he kept fighting. Luckily for him, it was a mutual thing where they both wanted to reunite. And, fast forward now, how long has Jared been with you now?
He's been back for probably just about a year.
Yeah, record month after record month, right? We all ups
Yeah.
and up and downs, but lots of good things happening. And once again, he stuck to the plan. Could have been very easily for him to say, you know what, F this, I'm going to go ahead and do it my way. But he didn't, and he's seen the benefits of it. And I think that's the biggest part, for all the clients listening out there, whether you're with me, with any other consultants, we always have your best interest, even though sometimes things might be scary. Stick to the plan, and you're going to guarantee to see results, right, Keith?
Correct. Very,
You-
very good advice.
Your story actually illustrated something that we've talked about a few times on this show, and I was just talking to somebody else about earlier this week, which is, you see articles or you hear about how nationwide all kinds of industries are having so much trouble finding employees. I walk around my area, and there's help wanted signs up in all kinds of different businesses, and that the shortage of employees is a big deal. Yet a shop owner with the right attitude hires somebody that they need within a week. It's a really important point. The attitude of the business owner makes the difference between successful recruitment and everything else.
Yeah.
So I just want to tell you, for me, that's awesome to hear that Keith is right on it with the right attitude, and it gets results. That's so cool to hear, especially these days.
It's very good to hear. And not to change on the subject, Keith, but I have a big question for you. Next to hiring your service advisor and kind of turning that hat over and helping your sales with that and everything, what would you say the other big issues that you addressed in the shop that made the big difference for you to gain so much and get to where you're at today?
I listened to Andy again and kind of got myself out of the middle of the game. I don't work on cars as much as I did. I strictly work on classic cars when I want to now. And now I can kind of control everybody else and, make sure what's supposed to happen happens in the shop.
Okay.
That's great.
Now, as you were making those changes and everything, was there any places that you're like, I'm not comfortable with, or I'm not so sure that I want to do that way yet?
I still have times, but the big one was starting writing shop procedures and policies. I had never done that, and Andy helped me through that, and with Drive's images they had that you could use, and that helped a lot there. And then just believing in what has to happen. And then this year and last year were the first 2 years in 34 years of business that I ever set goals. And we just barely missed last year's goal. So this year, I think we'll make our goal this year because we have the whole year to do it, where we started like in February on last year's goal.
Yeah.
That's an important factor is goals. I know we talk about it quite a bit. I think Chris and I have screamed from the top of this show every time we've seen it. And I know, Keith, you watched this show many times, so maybe that helped. But I know that we've screamed at the top from the top of the rooftops out there about setting goals and then working the plans out on how you're going to make those goals.
Yeah, you guys had a class on goal setting, which really inspired me too.
Mhm.
That on one of these Zoom meeting type things, and it was really good.
Great. Now, Keith, I know you've attended quite a number of workshops since you started with us. Which workshop had the most impact as far as changing your shop, changing your business around?
Probably the service writer one, because I realized I really wasn't a service writer by sitting through that class. And the instructor will tell you I was in and out of the class more than I was in it, probably going to get customers and answering the phone. And I just said, man, I want to be there doing this. I don't want to be out there doing that. So I still hear every day of the week. I haven't changed anything there yet. That I'm going to change some in the future. But I'm not 100% comfortable yet, but I should be, and I probably am exaggerating the problem. And but yeah, the service writer class probably really changed my mind a lot, because I realized I couldn't do that job, run the shop out in the bay, and learn more.
That's great. All right, and what's in store for you for the next in the coming year?
I'm thinking of adding a shop manager, so I don't have to do that job either. And then have Jared in the front, him in the back. And because I have an inherent problem with me, I want to give everybody everything, and I don't want to be mean to anybody. And so when I do get mean, I actually say things I shouldn't say. So it'd be better to hire somebody that can control that their income is based on what happens out there.
Great. That's awesome.
That's such a great viewpoint on here that I would just like to touch upon, because Keith, I see such an amazing thing on you. You're sitting there saying, okay, I've learned that I'm not the service writer, and that's not my job. And now you're saying, I've also learned that maybe I'm not the one that needs to be managing the place. I need to hire somebody to put into that place that does the job better. And that takes a unique set of viewpoints from a shop owner. And I really want to, that's a great viewpoint that you have, because you're taking the role as, I'm the owner. Those jobs, I'm not the one that should do that. I should hire somebody else and train them to do it. And that's a very unique viewpoint, very important to the success of a business too.
Absolutely.
Right. And it's I didn't realize any of that until Drive. I have tried other programs before, and it was like throwing my money in the toilet. And it was a lot of money, and I spent a lot of time, but I got a guy that was my consultant from that company that wouldn't push me. And I'd tell him, well, call me tomorrow, I'll talk to you tomorrow. And then he wouldn't call till the next week. And I just keep putting them off. And it was a lot my fault, because I was working full time in the shop, and I didn't really have time to do everything that he tried to tell me. But a lot of stuff they told me didn't make sense to me at that time either. And I'm still kicking myself. I told Andy, I looked at Drive back in like 2002, and I should have joined then. I just says, I don't need to know the numbers, when I went through the class and sat through it with your guys' founder. And talking to the guys that have been in for a long time now, I said, I should have done it. I'd probably be retired by now. I'm 67 and still working every day of the week.
Now, you brought up a piece there. So back then you had a thing, I didn't need to know the numbers. How many numbers do you track now?
As many as I can figure out. There's some things on the KPI list I fill out I do not understand. I'm still learning the KPI part of it. But for 30 years, all I did was, I got money in the checkbook, I'm ready to go. And that's the way I ran my business. And but now, I have a bookkeeper and a CPA, and I have a payroll person. So I don't do any of those jobs. I used to do them all before myself.
That's great.
So it looks like you're setting up, and I don't want to misspeak here. So you're talking about retirement and everything else. Is that one of your goals, is to get the shop to set up, run on your own, so you don't have to be there every day?
I don't want to retire per se, but right, I don't want to be here every day. Like I said, told you earlier, my wife is fairly sickly, and I would like to do some things with her, because I haven't done it for the last 30 years. And so, I'd like to take some vacations with her where she wants to do and stuff like that.
Okay. So Andy, you still got your work cut out in front of you over here. We need Keith to have some vacation time right immediately.
Yeah, that's exactly what we were talking about in the last few weeks, right, Keith?
Yep, we're working on it.
And I think the biggest thing for Keith is that he now understands that, all of these actions go hand in hand with him being able to take a vacation or not. It's one of the things that he's learned. Hey, if you don't write the policies and procedures, you're not going to be able to take the vacation with your wife, right, Keith?
Right.
And so, it's a little extra motivated. And I think, again, not to make Keith's head any bigger than it is, right? But, kind of with his actions, and I'll give you guys a quick example with the policies and procedures, he put them in and it didn't go well the first time, right, Keith?
No.
And he kept at it. He could have easily said, well, hey, I've never done this. I don't like doing this. It didn't work. Again, forget this. He kept at it. And it's still a work in progress, right, Keith? But, the more he does it, the more he sticks to it, the more results he gets, the better his guys are. He was talking to me yesterday. One of his guys broke 40 hours last week, right, Keith? And that's not always the case with that guy. And, not to get all into a shop, but yeah, things are going great. And he sees that, now he has a grasp of that. He can manage this, not where if the shop goes well, then it goes well. Now he has control over it. And I think that's the biggest thing that he's noticed. And it makes you want to do more, right, Keith? It makes you want to do more of what we go through.
Everything that you get me to try and it works, then I'm ready to try something else.
Yeah.
But if it never worked, I wouldn't redo any of it again.
100%.
That's an important point because I remember years past. At first, you're kind of skeptical. Okay, I'll try this, and then it works, and then you see results on it, and then you're like, okay. So then your consultant tells you to try something else. You go do it. Eventually, it becomes where it's a little easier to just try things, isn't it, Keith?
Yeah. Well, when you stop wearing some of the hats, it's a lot easier to do it too, because now you have some time to do it. So yeah, it gets a little easier. It's, like I told Andy before, I says in-person classes, I'd probably learn a lot more because I wouldn't have any interruptions. But what I've done is I need to go back, maybe do it. You allow us to do that. So, I'm still learning. There's still classes I want to take. But we're working on that. It's just a slow process, and we'll get there in, a year or two to finish it, get me where I should be.
Awesome.
Good to hear. So the next question I have on there is, it's kind of just a roundabout question, Keith, that you're talking about the next year or two getting there and getting everything else. And this is just a piece, I'm sure, I don't know if you're fully aware of it, but there's the Masters and Master of Elite Shop Management. Is that something that you're trying to achieve? Because that sounds like that's where your goals are aligned with.
Yeah, I'd like to get there, because the thing that really intrigues me is listening to the guys that are in the 20 groups that get to talk to other shop owners. I enjoy talking to other shop owners quite a bit, and I help all the ones in my neighborhood as much as I can. And so yeah, I look forward to getting where I can join the 20 group.
Okay.
Great.
So Andy, you add another item to the checklist here.
New goal for Andy.
Write that down.
So, it sounds like you've done a lot right now. Over the years, you've done a lot right, Keith, because like I said, you had a business, you kept it going for a lot of years, even though it did kind of plateau out. And I can only say that goes back, because I've learned this through myself too, is that as a shop owner, you can only do so much in one day.
Yeah.
Right.
And you'll hit that ceiling. And when you hit that ceiling, it can be hard. So the thing is I see here with you, Keith, you learned that you hit that ceiling, you went out, you got help, you're starting to train, you're implementing policies, procedures, putting the right people in your shop, you're seeing it grow. Tell me how that feels on that, to see now that you went from a spot where you were stuck at a stage for several years, and now you're starting to grow. How's that affect your life, not just in the shop, but personally?
I get a lot less headaches lately. I would get stress headaches all the time, and I'm not a very stressful person. I let things roll off me pretty easy, but since things have started going smoother, the headaches have gone away. I keep a bottle of Advil in my office, and this one's lasted like a year. And they used to go through them every 3 months. So, you know, I see that helping. And it's a lot of relief off my shoulders not to be responsible for everything.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. So, you know, we are coming up. I think we were coming up on the time. I ain't seen my clock. It ain't been moving here, but we're getting pretty close. So, but I do want to thank you for coming on and sharing everything with us, Keith. And, you know, I look forward to watching you still grow, expand, get to that point where you don't have to be at the shop. I'm going to hold Andy's feet to the fire to make sure that happens for you. And that brings us up to the, you know, our wrap up announcements here. And Keith, this is definitely something. Next week's show, we're going to be talking about the topics of what's your exit plan. And, you know, this is a big topic over here, and I'll let Keith weigh in on it just before I go into it. But an exit plan doesn't mean that you have to physically leave the business. Doesn't mean you have to sell it. Doesn't mean you have to be there. But what is your strategy? What is your game after you accomplish the shop? How are you going to turn over the roles? Who's next in line? There's a lot to exit. Doesn't mean you stop owning the business. Doesn't mean that you aren't a part of the business, but it's setting it up so you have that freedom from the business. And we're going to talk about that subject next week on our Facebook Live. So, but I think that's where you're at, Keith, right? Is you're working on that. What's next strategy?
Yeah, I thought I had that figured out in 2019. I had my nephew working for me, and my goal was to work another 5 years from there and give him the business when I retired. You know, I'd still own the building and stuff like that, but he decided he didn't want to work for me anymore and gave me 3 days notice and quit, and to go work on hot rods full time. So now my new plan is, hopefully when my grandson turns 16 in a couple of years, he'll be interested in coming down here and learning the business. And if he is, I'm going to start sending him to drive classes, and I will give him the shop when he turns 18.
That's just awesome. That's
awesome.
That is awesome. That's a wonderful goal to have, Keith. You're a stand-up guy on that. I just see that right there. So
yeah.
So with that, Keith, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, we look forward to seeing everybody next week. Like I said, we're going to talk about the topic's going to be what's your exit strategy. And then just a reminder that for those that didn't tune in early, we have the Drive Expo August 25th through the 28th in Orlando, Florida. So start marking your calendars for that. And we are very excited to announce that we're going to have live in-person training in Dallas, Texas, March 21st through 26th. So talk to your consultant, talk to your coach, your account rep, or any drive representative if you're interested in those classes, and we'll get you the details, get you registered, get you signed up for them. And you know what, everybody out there, have a great weekend, and let's have another great week next week.
Thank you, guys. Have a good weekend.
Bye, everybody.